The auction block. The Zarek trade ring shimmered like a jeweled parasite against the dark canvas of space, orbiting a dying red star. Within its gravity-anchored chambers, alien nobles and slavers moved like predators at a gala, feasting on the commerce of suffering. The auction house, carved from obsidian alloy and trimmed in platinum veining, stood as the centerpiece of this twisted marketplace. Every 10 cycles, it hosted the rarest of commodities. Today, the most coveted prize was a child. She stood behind a shimmering containment field, barefoot, dirty, eyes sharp with fear and rage. 10 years old, human. Her name was Emily Carter, born on Mars Frontier 7. She had a scraped knee, tangled brown hair, and a silent defiance that unnerved even the reptilian guards posted beside her. An auctioneer slithered forward, its translucent flesh pulsing with bioluminescent colors as it addressed the crowd in 100 tongues. Lot 47, last of her colony. Human female, pre-adolescent. Cognitive matrix, intact. No augmentations. Rare. Very rare. Opening bid. 1,000 crystal marks. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Some aliens murmured about Earth and its people, how the humans had pulled back from the galaxy a century ago, how they were insular, overly emotional, and too wild to bother with. But a few understood the true rarity of this moment. "She's unbonded?" hissed a sore noble, clicking its mandibles in excitement. "Completely unprocessed. Virgin neural pathways. Excellent for behavioral modeling," the auctioneer purred. Emily's fists clenched. She didn't know all the words, but she knew what they meant. She remembered the raid. How the sky over Mars had turned black with the smoke of burning farms. How her father had told her to hide in the storm bunker. How he and her mother never made it out. The highest bidder emerged. Lord Korvax, a high-ranking diplomat of the Sword Dominion. He was tall and serpentine, draped in glimmering metallic silk. He regarded her not as a person, but a specimen. "I'll take her," he said coldly, flicking a data shard toward the auctioneer. The gavel struck. The room cheered. But across the galaxy, in a forgotten outpost drifting near the Kuiper Belt, a battered human listening post came alive. A recording beacon embedded in Emily's collar, designed by slavers to track and catalog her vital signs, also contained a frequency too low for alien sensors. A relic of human wartime tech. And when her pulse spiked during the auction, the transmitter activated. The signal reached Outpost Atlas 9, a dead station manned only by an AI custodian named Guardian 3. Its systems stirred. Algorithms ran. Audio samples from Emily's panic screams were analyzed and compared against Earth's missing persons archives. Within 0.23 seconds, a match was confirmed. The AI composed a message. Unclassified signal intercept. Human child sold in slave trade. Threat level, Galactic Class A. Victim, Emily Carter, age 10. Status, live captivity. Initiating protocol, Genesis Flame. It fired a compressed packet to EarthGov Command on Luna Prime. Back on the Zarek ring, Emily sat in a cold containment pod aboard Korvax's vessel. The alien ship smelled of ozone and formaldehyde. She could hear guards speaking in guttural clicks and warbles. She didn't cry. Not anymore. She studied everything. Ventilation shafts, console lights, the rhythm of their patrols. Her father had taught her that fear was a tool, not a prison. Somewhere deep in her heart, a belief remained. Someone would come. At that moment, far above the orbital plane of Saturn, the first human interdiction fleet reactivated from cryo-sleep. AI war core spun up. Black steel carriers, long silent, came online. Dozens of stealth vessels, invisible to all known alien sensors, began their trajectory. No public declaration, no diplomacy, just a message etched in ancient Terran code, sent to every major galactic network. "You have sold a child. You have awakened us. Earth awakens." The council chamber beneath the surface of Luna Prime was silent, save for the low hum of data feeds streaming across the holoscreens. The signal from Outpost Atlas 9 repeated on loop. Emily Carter's scream, raw and frightened, echoing in digital clarity. No one spoke. Every face around the obsidian war table was carved from stone. At the head of the chamber sat President Amani Reyes, Supreme Commander of the Unified Earth Directorate. A former Marine, her gray-streaked hair was cropped tight, her eyes sharp enough to cut glass. She had commanded battalions during the Helios Uprising and brokered peace with the Jovian separatists. But this wasn't politics. This was personal. Verified? She asked, her voice low. Confirmed. DNA match with Emily Carter. Colony listed as wiped 3 weeks ago. No survivors, replied Admiral de Castro, head of the Interstellar Operations Command. President Reyes looked to her right. Strategic AI Solstice, a 4th-gen quantum intelligence, flickered into view as a translucent humanoid form, its face a neutral mask. Probability of widespread alien complicity? She asked it. 96%. The auction was publicly attended. No intercession. Multiple species confirmed to have participated in or observed the sale. Estimated galactic knowledge of event, moderate to high. A beat passed. Then Reyes stood. Activate Genesis Flame. The council chamber froze for half a second. Even De Castro stiffened. Ma'am, he said slowly, that protocol was designed for extinction-level threats. Deploying now would. She was 10, Reyes said. She was ours. They sold her like cattle. No further justification was needed. Across Sol System, humanity stirred. Hidden beneath the frozen oceans of Europa, the Black Spear fleet began to move. 12 dreadnoughts, armed with anti-star weaponry and powered by singularity cores, detached from their cloaked silos. On the dark side of Mercury, the stellar forge activated, igniting the forges that had lain dormant since the post-reunification era. Combat mechs, AI-driven stealth bombers, and kill-swarm drones flowed off the assembly lines in perfect silent efficiency. Earth, for the first time in over a century, stood united not for defense, but for retribution. In a classroom in New Nairobi, students watched as their teacher stopped mid-lecture and turned on the news feed. A single headline sprawled across every device. Operation Genesis Flame initiated. Humanity responds. Children read the subheading in silence. Human child sold at Galactic auction. Soul declares state of galactic emergency. An elderly man, watching from a floating garden in New Kyoto, exhaled a long breath. They forgot what we are, he muttered. Far from the Sol System, Emily Carter crouched in a corner of her containment cell aboard Lord Korvax's vessel. Her wrists were bruised from struggling against the energy cuffs, but she hadn't stopped observing. The ship was sleek, designed for diplomatic travel, fast but lightly guarded. Emily had found a loose panel in the wall. She didn't know what it led to, but she remembered something her mother once said: curiosity can be survival. When the next power flicker came, something she noticed happened every 30 minutes. She moved. Small hands pried the panel open. She crawled through the maintenance duct, heart pounding, unsure what waited on the other side. She emerged in a dim corridor near the comms room. A console blinked. Alien glyphs scrolled across the screen, but some human alphabets were included. Standard galactic protocol. Emily remembered enough from her father's teaching to find one button. Distress beacon, open channel. She hit it. The system resisted. She hit it again. A burst of code shot into the void. Back in Sol space, Solstice AI intercepted the ping. Location locked. Zarek trade ring confirmed. It reported. Subject alive. Dispatching retrieval force. Aboard the flagship Vengeance Dawn, Admiral de Castro stood before the assembled crews of Fleet Group Orion. Thousands of officers stood at attention across 20 carriers and stealth ships. We have tolerated their arrogance, he said, voice amplified across every deck. We have endured their disregard, but today they sold one of ours. A child. He paused. They have forgotten the price of our silence. We will remind them. And so the fleets moved, swift and silent. Not to negotiate, not to warn, to deliver judgment. They dared. The Zarek trade ring had seen warships before, pirate skirmishes, territorial disputes, and the occasional show of force from Empire fleets. But what arrived now was different. There was no fanfare, no warning. At precisely 4 o'clock ZTR Standard Time, all outer ring sensors went dark. 4 seconds later, the human interdiction fleet dropped from Quantum Fold, appearing just outside Zarek's defense perimeter. No energy signature, no hyperspace trails, just a silent armada of matte black ships, sleek, angular, and unidentifiable by any known galactic catalog. By the time the trade ring's defense AI began to scramble fighters, the first barrage had already been fired. Human kinetic lances, projectiles traveling at relativistic speeds, punched through 3 orbital defense platforms, reducing them to clouds of shrapnel. Zarek's command center stuttered as electromagnetic pulses shut down half its comms. Panic rippled across the ring. Inside the central auction complex, alarms screamed. Shoppers and slavers bolted for their ships. Too late. The Black Swarm had arrived. Tens of thousands of autonomous drones, shaped like metallic shards, poured from the bellies of Earth's stealth carriers. They slipped through air vents, tore through bulkheads, and swarmed every escape route. They did not demand surrender. They simply killed. Lord Korvax was mid-argument with a trade officer when the first blast rocked his cruiser. He stumbled, eyes narrowing as screens flickered. "What species dares this?" he snarled, slamming a clawed fist on the console. One of his guards shouted, "It's them. The Terrans. They're here." Korvax froze. "That's impossible. They don't interfere. They—" The hull shuddered again. From deep within the ship, a proximity alarm howled. Then came a sound that chilled even his cold blood. Human boots on metal. Emily Carter's world tilted. The attack had knocked out her containment field. Her bruised limbs ached, but she pushed herself upright. She was still in the lower hold, beneath the crew quarters. Blaster fire echoed above. The lights turned red. Then came a hiss as the bulkhead ahead slid open. She flinched, expecting more guards, but instead, a tall figure stepped through. Black armor, no insignia, a glowing visor, a human. "Emily Carter?" The voice inside the helmet asked. Calm, controlled. She nodded, too stunned to speak. "Extraction Team Bravo. You're safe now. Stay behind me." He handed her a small device. "Emergency evac beacon. If we're separated, activate it." She clutched it like a lifeline. As they moved, Emily saw what her rescuers were capable of. 2 more soldiers joined them, clearing corridors with swift, merciless precision. No wasted shots. No hesitation. The humans had not come as diplomats. They had come as executioners. Across the Zara trade ring, chaos ruled. Alien nobles begged for mercy. Some tried to surrender. But the human fleet transmitted only one message. "You sold a child. You will not be forgiven." Those who attempted to flee were vaporized mid-flight. Ships were pulled from warp corridors by gravitic hooks and torn apart. The galaxy's mightiest trade hub was becoming a graveyard. Live feeds of the assault were captured by fleeing news drones and broadcast across galactic channels. Billions watched in horror as humans painted their message in blood and fire. She cried. "You laughed. We heard. Now you burn." The words looped in hundreds of languages. Back on Earth, public sentiment was unified and unshakable. Every human, whether on Mars, Venus, or the orbiting habitats, watched the assault unfold with grim satisfaction. In the streets of New Chicago, people marched silently holding signs. She was 10. In the spaceports of Luna, volunteer numbers for Earth Defense Forces tripled overnight. In orbit, the War Council reviewed the next targets. "This was not an isolated incident," Admiral De Castro stated. "We now have records of 13 other human children sold in the last 50 years. President Reyes nodded. "Then Zarek is only the beginning." Inside the wreckage of Korvax's ship, Emily emerged with her escort into the clearing smoke of a breached hangar. A shuttle waited, its ramp lowered. "Your parents would be proud," the armored soldier told her as he lifted her aboard. She looked up at him, eyes fierce. "I want to learn to fly one of these." He paused. "Stick with us, kid. You just might." The shuttle lifted, vanishing into the protective wall of warships that surrounded the ring like a funeral wreath. Behind them, the Zarek trade ring burned. Humanity had spoken. No more chains. The Zarek trade ring was gone. Nothing remained but drifting wreckage and heat signatures that would take decades to cool. Humanity hadn't claimed it as a prize, hadn't tried to salvage its wealth. They left it as a message carved into the stars. But the message didn't end there. Across the galaxy, the shockwave spread. The Sword Dominion, once arrogant and untouchable, entered full diplomatic lockdown. Their envoys fled human systems. Trade partners went silent. 100 minor species cut ties, fearing guilt by association. The Galactic Senate held an emergency session in the orbiting city of Veltar Prime. Representatives of dozens of species gathered beneath a holographic projection of the burning Zarek ring. "This is madness," spat a delegate from the Keeler Consortium. "The Terrans are unhinged. They launched a military assault over a single child." "They warned us," murmured a Tlani elder. "They told us what would happen if we touched their young." Others shifted uncomfortably. For centuries, humans have been dismissed, brilliant but dangerous, insular, unpredictable. They had withdrawn after the Outer Colony Wars, choosing peace and isolation. Now they were back, not to conquer, but to cleanse, and no one knew who might be next. On Luna Prime, inside the war room buried beneath 5 kilometers of reinforced regolith, President Reyes stood before the Interstellar Command Board. "The operation was precise," reported Admiral De Castro. "0 civilian casualties, aside from known traffickers and collaborators. Emily Carter is safe and recovering." Her debrief was instructive. "Is the footage authenticated?" Reyes asked. He nodded grimly. "We have recordings from Korvax's own logs. The sale, the bidding, the laughter. We've distributed it to every system." Reyes turned to Solstice AI. "What's the reaction?" "Mass panic in trade rings. Disruption of slave markets in 12 sectors. Open revolt on 4 worlds where humans were held captive. Civilian response among galactic citizens has shifted. Sympathy is rising for us." "They thought we'd just bark," Reyes said quietly. "They didn't think we'd bite." "We didn't bite," De Castro said. "We ripped out the throat." At Earth Recovery Hospital in New Nairobi, Emily Carter sat by a window, staring up at the sky. It was blue and warm, dotted with drifting airships and clouds. She hadn't seen Earth before. It was nothing like Mars, no red dust, no cold wind. Just peace. But she didn't feel peace. Her hands still trembled sometimes. Her nightmares were filled with alien voices and burning fields. She remembered everything. But she also remembered the soldier who carried her out, the words he said. "Stick with us, kid." She would. Her recovery counselor, an older man with deep eyes and a patient voice, offered her a data slate. "What's this?" she asked. "Flight Academy application, and the other one's tactical training. We don't normally let 10-year-olds apply, but the president authorized your clearance personally." Emily didn't smile. She just nodded. "Good," she said. "I want to make sure it never happens again." In the following weeks, Earth broadcast an open directive known as the Charter of Innocence. A single clause headlined it. "No human, under any system, jurisdiction, or pretense, shall be enslaved, traded, or unlawfully detained without consequence." Violation constitutes a declaration of war. Across the stars, silence followed. Then, something unexpected. Support. The Regellian Accord, a non-human federation of pacifist systems, released a joint statement. "We stand with Terra." So did the neutral trade worlds of the Svanny Rim. More surprisingly, several minor empires offered reparations and surrendered information about black market human trafficking. Not out of guilt, but fear. The fire had spread. From orbit, the Earth looked calm. But in the shipyards above, war machines were still being built. Humanity wasn't seeking war, but they would never be caught unready again. Emily Carter would grow up in this new era, where Earth no longer looked inward, but outward. And she would not be alone. The children they had lost would be remembered. The girl they tried to sell had become the spark. And the galaxy now understood a truth that would never be forgotten. You do not harm our young, because when you do, we come for you.